Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Challenges in the Streets here from the Public Safety Training Academy. Before we get into today's episode, we have just a couple normal housekeeping things. So if you're here for a COPDI credit, hopefully you're here for the information also. But make sure you sign in with the link on QuickLink so you get credit for your COPDI hour. This is a 60-minute episode. That's what we're scheduled for, and we're going to try to stick to that as best we can. Again, before we get started, another reminder for the Alfaro Memorial Blood Drive that's coming up. The guys are going to put it up on the screen here. Again, at the State Public Safety Training Academy on Sunday, October 26th, so coming up from 8 to 2. So please make sure you sign up using the QR code or the link in the flyer that was emailed out. And if you have any questions, you can email Battalion Chief Mann, and he will be able to answer any questions for you. In addition to that, if you guys have any questions as we go through our episode today, please put them in the chat. I'm monitoring here so we can try to get any of those questions answered as they come up. And finally, if you have a Sonim phone with you or like your personal phone, might be helpful to have while we go through this. Obviously, you can pause and or go back and watch again later. But that way you can kind of help navigate through some of this stuff, especially if you're at a station with a UTV. If you can get that Sonim phone, it'll have some of the things, probably some more capabilities for what we're about to talk about here. So I think that's about it for housekeeping. Again, today's episode is 60 minutes. So we're going to talk about CalTopo, which you may or may not know what it is. It's one of our new applications that we have on some of our Sonim phones and some of the MDCs out in the field. You might not even know what it is. So we're going to explain what CalTopo is, how that integrates with some of our other digital navigation aids, such as What Three Words. We'll talk with ECC about how they use their end of it, and so on and so forth. So hopefully this will be good information. Again, it's meant for the end user. So this isn't formal training, but the battalion chiefs have gone through some training on CalTopo. All of our river team members are familiar with it because they've been using it for quite a while. This is more meant for the general population. If you find yourself on a UTV, you could be at a station where you might not be the operator, but you may be on that unit responding to a call in a remote area. So it's just going to be some good information on how to use some of these other navigational aids to help find your patient. So our panel for this episode today is Captain Stream from Company 10 on C Shift. He's kind of one of the members spearheading this effort to use CalTopo. Captain Mecklin from Company 30 on B Shift also has a lot of interface in the back end of CalTopo. And then we also have Captain McDonald joining us, the ECC supervisor on C Shift, to help explain some of ECC's end of how we find our patients. So before we get into the ECC end of it and actually using the app, Captain Stream, do you want to just get into real quick, just explain what CalTopo is for everybody and kind of how it came to be and why we're using it?
Sure. So, kind of the long and short of it, it is a mapping system that is kind of a crossbreed between paper maps and digital mapping. So, if you think like Google Maps or things like that, it allows us to take some information, almost pre-planned type of information, and then load it into these maps and go forward from there. I was first introduced to it through some folks within the state, Howard County, Baltimore County, and Harford County use this. We were looking to replace our older GPS units and felt that this might be a good opportunity to look at some different technology, and it's kind of so far been the front runner for what we're looking at.
Cool. And so, yeah, just real quick, people may or may not be familiar, right, with What Three Words and some of the other apps. Like I know I used an app called Gaia GPS a bunch. So what is it the same thing? Is it different? Like, can we interface the two? I know we're going to explain it a little bit,
Sure.
but like it is different, right?
It's very different. It more of a mapping software than just if you think of What Three Words is just a simplified Google Waze, really. Okay, you're taking GPS points, or in What Three Words case, three specific words that tie into a GPS location, and it shows up on the map. That's about all you can do. You can navigate with it, but that's all it gives you. So as we get into CalTopo, you'll see a lot more of what this allows us to do on the user end, as well as the back end and the front end before we even run the call.
Yeah, so I think the big thing and the big advantage of this is kind of like you just mentioned, it adds an accountability piece for chief officers, right, for an incident commander, and also awareness for other units. And it's more so used not just for the river, right, but when we're operating in these areas that are kind of non-conventional. So whether
Exactly.
it's wilderness, whether it's a trail, even somebody on their own property, even if it's a more vast property in some of the more remote areas of the county, it just allows us to find and have an accountability piece, maybe on incidents where the incident commander can't necessarily see the patient, the immediate operational area, and all the units operating. So
Absolutely, that's where it's going to shine.
yeah. So cool. So now we kind of know what it is. Who has CalTopo as of right now? Like, can you just explain that real quick so people know it? They might be looking at their Sonim phone for paramedic
Sure.
engine 712, and they're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what
Yeah.
it's not on
Unfortunately, we're
there.
not there yet. So the CalTopo is obviously a company that they're in business to make money, but they'll provide a service. So with that, they have free accounts. They have personal accounts which you can pay for, and then there's team accounts, and those team accounts are specifically set up for search and rescue groups, fire departments, things like that, are actually in the process or in the business of looking for people. A lot of your search teams on the state police, county police, they're going to use this as well. So with that, um, the free accounts, if you were hiking or deer hunting, whatever you may want to use it for, kayaking, you can use this in that case to set up plan a trip and then follow yourself on that trip, share your location with somebody else in case they want to keep tabs on you while you're out in the wilderness. An upgraded account for those is going to allow you to do a few more options, a little bit more advanced. But what we have is the team account. So the team account has a lot more capability. We have to, obviously it's more expensive, but with that we have so many licenses that we can operate on. So currently there's 50 of them. The boats, UTVs, and battalion chiefs tie up a large chunk of that, and then our IT folks who need to help set up things in the back end obviously need some accounts. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now. The team accounts give you a lot of options that or capability that the personal accounts do not. So that's kind of, we're looking at obviously with the price, can we add this to other apparatus, the trucks, the engine squads, things like that. But currently, the Sonim phones for any of the boats, boat supports, or UTVs, tow vehicles should have the Sonim phones with the app already installed on it.
Gotcha. Very cool. So yeah, getting into as far as how we use it, right, and how we figure out where our patients are, because it could be difficult in a non-conventional location, right? Captain McDonald, could you just tell us real quick? So I call 911, right, and you guys answer the phone at ECC, or the civilian counterparts answer the phone. How do you know where I am aside from me just telling you my address? Like, can you just explain that process briefly?
Yeah. Excuse me. There's the biggest program that we have right now is, which also ties into the what three words, is our Rapid SOS. Currently, what it does, it's a separate program on our what we call our enterprise computers. So it's not part of our ECC CAD monitors. It's a separate computer screen that if we have the patient's or the caller's phone number, we can type that phone number in, and from there it pops up. Actually, very similar to what Captain Stream was show. Well, will probably show in a little bit. It gives me a locator, a tab, and then it shows degree of certainty. Usually, it says it's actually about within 8 to 10 feet usually, and then part of the the rapid SOS, excuse me, is it will give us our what three words and it will give us our lat longs. So historically, what we've been doing, even up until you'd say what the last 6 months to a year, Cap,
Yeah, spring.
we would actually pull up our rapid SOS, take a picture of it, and then send it to the Sonim phones themselves. So then they'd actually at least have the what three words and a picture of what it looked like on our rapid SOS map.
Cool. Yeah, so I've seen that before too, where you guys, send the screenshot. So basically, as soon as somebody calls 911, you have ready access on another computer where you can actually see the person, the caller anyway, which is an important distinction, right? Because it could be a third-party caller, but you see that caller's exact GPS coordinates and then what three words, it populates that. And can one of you guys can probably explain it more eloquently than me as far as what three words, or what is that? People might not know, right? What is what three words? Like, what does that equate to?
So, What Three Words is another application, right, that you can download on phones. You can use it through a web browser. Basically, divided the entire Earth into 3 meter by 3 meter square boxes, and then gave three unique words to instead of think of the words as the GPS coordinates. So, as much as I can't spell sometimes, right, it is a lot easier to type in three words than it is a bunch of coordinates.
Right.
Just
Don't forget the minus sign and the
Yeah,
decimal point in the wrong
Right.
spot and all that
well,
stuff, right?
on that same note, right? So, I mean, Mike and I are kind of hyper focused on the river, right? But across the river is Fairfax, and I don't know at this point, and I'll explain why in a second. But when we were using GPS coordinates, they use a different like setting for that, right? So if they gave us coordinates or they gave them to Mike up at ECC, he's trying to give them to us. We have to make sure that we're the ones that we were using. what 3 words also kind of eliminates that. You take the 3 words and then you can put it into whatever GPS program you want to get those coordinates. So it's significantly easier way to find somewhere on the map.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the easiest way for us in the field, right? If somebody's on a UTV, if I'm on an engine company or whatever the case is, I can go to that What 3 Words app. I can enter those 3 words that he either sends me in a text message. You guys put them in as a priority note in the call, usually, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we try and do that also. Just again, one of the biggest things we try to do as an ECC team is try and get you the information the best way possible, and we try and give it multiple ways because we know you all are doing a lot in the field. You're responding to calls. You're hitting en route. You're watching out for other vehicles once you get in the water or on the trail. You don't necessarily have that MDC, so we do try and give you multiple avenues to see and help.
I think it's important to mention, Mike, I can't remember if you did, but Rapid SOS gives you GPS coordinates. It gives you what 3 words. You can pull it up on the map as well. Right. So if none of that is actually jiving as well, you also can look at that location and kind of, you could even say like, hey, at Company 30, it's at trail marker 3 or whatever. So exactly to your point, right? You guys do all that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
and even not on the river. Oh, sorry, not on the river. Like wrecks on the Beltway and 270, we use Rapid SOS all the time, and especially as everyone knows, usually the caller's a passerby, and they don't really know where they're going. But with Rapid SOS, we can see where they started the call at least, and see where they are headed. So, okay, is it northbound 270 or southbound? Is it inner loop or outer loop? I can see where they are in that Rapid SOS, and I can see their breadcrumb trail. And then we can make a very informed decision to be like, hey, should we back it up an exit or two, or does that look like a good location to send the units to start?
And Matt, I think I'm glad you brought all this up, right? Because that's a good point for the fire twos on the ambulance. What 3 words is on the Sonim phones, right? If you're having trouble finding someone, I don't know, back of a baseball field, whatever, right? Call ECC, right? Have them send that to you or give it to you verbally over the air. Use the Sonim phone, pull that up, and usually it gets you close enough to where you're going to get the positive wave, as we always like to say, or something that's going to clue you in, hey, I'm in the right direction. So
yeah, and we'll talk about some later on how to practice with it, because I think that's important, right? Getting your hands on it, whether it's What 3 Words, CalTopo, how to interface both of them, but definitely getting your hands on it before the call, but bringing that Sonim phone too, right? If you're riding that ambulance or you're riding the seat of the fire truck or whatever, I mean, the boats, again, I know you guys it's second nature for you, but when you run that call and you're not 100% sure you're not pulling right up to the front of the address, bring that Sonim phone so you have that tool. You can see that text message that gets sent. You can utilize the app if it's not on your personal phone, right? All right, so let's get into the actual app itself. CalTopo, whoever wants to start off, Mike, if you want to, I guess, give the general overview of what it looks like, right, as far as, and I know we have an overhead camera too, so we have a tablet here because the interface on a browser is a little bit different than on the tablet or a phone would be, like the application based. So however you guys want to start, just show the actual app itself, and then we'll start talking about like how we actually use it.
Sure, we can go with the app for now.
Okay.
And focus on that, since that's kind of what the end users are going to be looking at, the folks in the field.
Okay, so you guys want to go to the overhead camera then? Okay, yep, we'll show the overhead camera, and then Captain Mecklin here will kind of take over and just show you what it looks like on the tablet or the app interface.
Mike, you want to narrate?
Yeah, I can sort of narrate as we go. Yeah, so once you pull the CalTopo up, you see the top right corner, folks. That's the app. That's what you're looking for. Now, any of the county phones, whether it's again boats, UTVs, doesn't matter. You're gonna have it should be logged in, and if it's not logged in, you're gonna see that it's a Google login. Password should already be saved. Go ahead to the process to log in. So what once you see the left side of the screen there, the most important thing is to make sure you're on the right map. And this, you can see the menu here. With the way we have this broken down for now, and this can change, but I tried to separate it between, Matt, you talked earlier about the non-conventional calls, like the trail calls in 14's area or 9's area, things like that. So we set the battalion maps up. So each battalion has a map. So if you're running Battalion 1 somewhere, running a call in 12's area, you could pull that Battalion 1 map up and operate on that map and not have to worry about being interfered with folks in the river team running a swiftwater call. Right now, there probably isn't a whole lot besides each of those maps. The one point of reference was going to be the battalion headquarters.
So just to be clear, this is data that you put in ahead of time,
Yeah,
right?
so I front-loaded all this stuff. These maps, there is no edge to these maps. It's just a different page, if you want to think about it like that. Just to try to organize stuff. Imagine you try to organize pre-plans. You're not gonna have all the buildings in all the pre-plans for all your buildings in one spot. Each building is gonna have its own pre-plan. So that's kind of how we did this. You get up into 14's maps. Battalion 5, I preloaded a map for Sugarloaf. 31's area, it's got some stuff for, and 22's area had the mountain bike trails in Germantown. So just
Real quick, Mark, could you pull up the My Data button so people can see the different map options available to them, just so they kind of understand that? Because I think that's an important point, like, for the person that's
Sure.
riding up front of the pickup truck, right, going on the UTV call, to know which map to open up. So you can just walk through how to do that, and just which ones they are, like the angler's map and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so again, yeah, in this case, the Swiftwater map. Let's bring up the Anglers map only because they're running a call right now and actually see some semi, pertinent data, some live data here. This is the call they're running currently on the Billy Goat Trail. And you can see the lines are all the different units. So the battalion chief is sitting in his buggy at Anglers, and he can see where all his units are. Each of those colors is it translates to a different boat. The purple up there that he just scrolled away from was the UTV, which they get on scene and they start their tracks as well. And we'll get into this a little bit. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but it gives us the ability to see live where all these units are and what everyone is doing. So it gives those battalion chiefs or whoever's running command much better situational awareness of where everything is. And that would be, again, for any call, whether, if it's somebody fell off a horse in Laytonsville, the battalion chief's obviously not going to be standing there watching them do patient care. They could be miles away. He can still kind of have an idea of what's going on. With this mapping software, he has the ability to pull up things. You can see that the overlay looks like your Google satellite view that he had up there before. So if he needs to look for a landing site, he can do that. It allows him to kind of see what's going on. And those top right corner there, he just pulled up, where those layers live.
Let me go back, Mike. So, and what Captain Machalo's getting at, right? So,
Yep.
kind of talked about the battalion maps. I'll pull up the Swiftwater team, right? So, the environment we both work in, a lot of times there is not very good cell service. So what Mike did was he separated some of this stuff out. I just pulled up the full MCFR river map that Mike had built a while ago, and that the problem is there are so many points in there that it could cause an issue with loading. So what he did was he divided them out, and that's one of the things. I know this isn't really a training session per se, but if you hear, it's unofficial, but we've kind of basically made it a common practice among us, like announce which map you're going to use. The angler's map, the Seneca map, and I think that's what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Maddie,
So
right.
So if I'm riding down the road in
Yes.
UTV 714, let's say, the call in the upper part of the river, we might hear you guys say we're going to be operating off the Seneca map, right? And that's what you mean by that. You click on that, your data, the river maps, and then you open up the Seneca map, and that's the specific map that everybody will be operating on for that call.
Yep, and that's just so gives everybody the same awareness. If you're not on the right map, we can't see you. Fortunately, the data can still be captured. We can export that to a different map, to the correct map later on. So for the archive data, it'll be fixed, but it obviously doesn't help on the call
In the moment,
right?
Yeah.
So
And look, we get it, right? We've been using it a lot, but even among our team, right?
I've done it.
But yeah, I mean, we've all done it, right? So just if you've got if people that are out there, folks that are out there on the UTV, we get you all don't run as many calls in this type of environment as we do. Like, just ask, right? Like, these calls are dynamic and they're usually a lot longer than a normal call. So there's no harm in asking, and we'll tell you. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time to say that too, right? So if you're running, say, like, you get dispatched as a single unit for an injured person, right, and it's not clear right away, the assignment just comes out as an injured person, right? The supervisor that hasn't taken a look at it yet at ECC or whatever to realize this might be more complicated, or you get there and it was, the caller called and said they were at the barn, but that's where the person left from, and now they're on some horse trail a couple miles back. Call for help, right? Call for it early. You guys are always there as resources, right? You can call the Swiftwater team leader if you have to, but hey, have them alert the battalion chief, right? So somebody that may be more familiar, just an extra set of hands to help you utilize some of this to find our patients.
And I can assure you, I know if Mark and I are working and we hear UTV 740 saying, hey, we're going to utilize CalTopo, if I'm not doing anything, I'm going to be at the watch desk or my desk at the firehouse, and I can do a lot to help you from there. Even my personal phone, if I'm in the truck with the ladder truck riding down the road, I can still manipulate a lot of the stuff on that map from the app, from my end of things, to help them. Just because again they're maybe not used to doing that all the time.
Yeah, I actually did it for you guys.
You've done it a lot, right? We both
2 months
helped.
ago, I was on a work sub at
Yeah.
3.
Yep.
Come back from a call. You all were running a bilgo trail somewhere, and I started putting stuff in because I knew you're bumping down the road on the boat sport. So, yeah.
Cool. Do you want to talk anything else about the actual like app itself before we get into like how the end user will go ahead and use it? Or
Yeah, let's do like I'll pull up one of the training maps maybe, and we can go through like adding a point or the different switching between satellite, or do you want to wait to do
No, we
that?
can do that. We can start with that now. If you want to pull up the C shift training map, just
Okay. Yep.
I'd already told a couple of my guys to be ready to do that. So
all right, you guys want the overhead camera for this part?
yeah.
All right. So yeah, looks like you're on the map. We'll switch to the overhead view, and you guys go ahead and start talking through that.
All right, so this is again, it's going to look very similar to the angler's map you just saw earlier, and that's just because normally the training maps to this point have been utilized by the Swiftwater team, so we have a bunch of our pre-planned locations in there. You can see Mark's manipulating the layers in the background. The more you play with that, it's more of a personal preference, what you like to see. Again, it's going to give you all sorts of stuff there to look at. He's going to load the global imagery, which I guess equates to, for most folks, it's going to be the Google satellite view, right, versus a traditional map view. The cool thing with this is you can stack multiple layers. We can pre-plan map sheets. We can real quick, Mark, since you're scroll over to Station 10, leave it in that view. Pull up the map sheets. So we have the ability to also load in drone photos. So turn the global imagery off.
You want me to get rid of the second map builder one too?
That can stay. And is Station 10 on there? That's not an option. Oh, okay. We'll slide down to Lock 5. We'll just go from there. So besides from drone photos we can add in there, we can also add pre-plans. Currently Lock 5 is under construction. So what I did to help people out, zoom in on that, I overlaid the map the Corps of Engineers gave us so that you can see you have it, instead of having the paper map with you or the Corps of Engineers paperwork, we can reference it right away, right off the map. Just one more thing to have preloaded and help us out. And it's GPS fixed on that map, so it's in the right place, right orientation. I did the same thing if you happen to be watching the firehouse, you pull up the map for Battalion 5, Sugarloaf Mountains maps on there, again, some other things like that. So that's just one of those things, pre-planned things that we can do to help you out. Go ahead and zoom out a little bit. I'm going to see if we can get our guys to start their tracking. We want to talk about some of the other functions that we can do on the map, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's, one of the we talked in the beginning about what 3 words and, adding in coordinates or points, right, of where a patient is. So one of the things we can do basically is add, and there's a couple different ways we can do it. You can go down here, you can hit marker at GPS, you can do like basically your location, or like I was talking about, you see those GPS coordinates down there. So let's go to what 3 words.
Yes, I think this is a good time to kind of tell people like, okay, so now I'm riding whatever UTV I'm riding, right? So we get the call. I got the notes here. It says whatever the what 3 words location is. All right. So this is probably how you're going to start utilizing this app, right? So we talk like kind of through this and then turning your tracks on and stuff like that.
Right, we get the what 3 words, rapid SOS data from Cap McDonald or whoever at ECC, right? We put it in. So I just picked a box right down the street from where we are right now, and it's oven client veal. There's a couple different ways you can do this. I'm using an iPad, so I'm going to click, and actually, did everybody understand that? And you can also type in, when you go to search, right, you can type in 3 words too, right? And you can kind of see that on the screen there. Literally the words you give, it's basically one word, period, the next word, period, the last word. The big thing with that, like I told you at the beginning, I'm not the greatest speller. So one, for the ECC folks, right, and they may give it to you, they're pretty used to spitting out calls, right? So if they may give it to you rapidly, just ask them to slow down a little bit, or ask them to text, your Sonim phone, right, Mike? I think that, or send it to the MDC,
Yeah,
right? Any of those
they
options.
usually do that pretty quickly. Yeah.
So any of those options, right? Because I'm also a visual person. I could copy and paste that from the text into what 3 words and put that in there.
Because, like you said, the entire world is broken up into 3 square meter boxes, so there's a lot of variations of each, like plurals and things like that. And that
Yes.
matters in what
Yeah.
three
It
words.
does.
It has to be the exact
And
spelling.
fortunately, if you get pretty close, it'll usually give you the 3 closest
Nearby,
options.
right.
One will say Potomac, one will say Carlsbad, California, and one might say somewhere in China.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously, you pick the one that's most appropriate. I don't think this has it turned on, but if you can actually turn the settings. So when you enter those 3 words, the GPS coordinates will come up below it, and then that on the bottom right of that screen, you can see the little copy. When you copy and paste it, you're actually copying and pasting the GPS coordinates in addition to the what 3 words, is what you're going to need for the CalTopo.
Yeah, this one's not set up like that, and look, that's every device is different. Whether you're using personal phone, whatever, right? So I'll just show you guys one of the ways that we can do this. So once again, we've got these 3 words. I just go to navigate, and I did this right before we started, right? Takes me to Apple Maps. You can also set it to Google Maps. I'm gonna copy. And so I had my marker already up from before. I'm going to delete out the previous one. Paste. And now it's on the map.
If you just make sure you don't want to move that map until you hit enter, or else it'll move that marker.
And how that's labeled right now is just that, but I'm going to go to edit. So I could tell you on the Swiftwater team, it'll basically the label that comes up from the program is a date and time. We pretty much put always in something along these lines. And I think that's important, right? And that's probably a good discussion point as well right now, is that don't take this as, I guess, gospel, maybe, for lack of a better word, right? By all means, probably the areas we're operating where we're using this are probably also areas that self-service might not be the greatest. So we might have an issue where we don't have the correct location. So I think it's a tool, right? It's another technology tool. It's awesome. It's great. But at the same time, just be aware that it does error from time to time, and it could be wrong. So it's, or at least in the general area, right?
Yeah,
So.
and I think it drives home the point of practicing the way, with what you're going to use too, because this might seem a little cumbersome and complicated, but it also is a little bit easier on most Android devices, right? Which the Sonim phones are, because when you type in a what 3 words location and you hit navigate, at least on my Android device, it gives me an option to navigate with different apps. It doesn't automatically go to Apple Maps, which some people's Apple devices might do. So I could just hit that navigate button on what 3 words, and then hit CalTopo right there, and it will actually put it right into the app without having to copy and paste the GPS coordinates.
And when you do that, the important thing there is, and we're going to get to this in a second, hopefully. Anyway, the 4 dots there at the bottom right corner is where most of the stuff for the end user guys are going to need to be. The bottom 4 corners, the next one up from that is marker at GPS, and the one above that's record track, and those are the 2 that we use quite a bit. If you move the map like Mark just did before you hit marker at GPS after selecting CalTopo, going again back from the what 3 words, it's gonna move it. So you always, without touching anything else on that map screen, once you hit the CalTopo, is to drop a marker at that GPS point, and that'll kind of save it for you. Then you can label it whatever you want. You can save it immediately and then go back and relabel it later on. It doesn't really matter. So you can see now this is live, right? Is that
Yeah, that's both. It's 2 people from your truck, right?
Yep.
Master Firefighter Wilkes and Firefighter Kale a little below, right?
Yep.
They turn their tracks on, they share their location, and now they're moving around on the map. So think Swiftwater call, trail call, whatever, right? The Sonim boat supports, right? You can see. What's nice is you can see live, right? You can see kind of where they started, basically where they've been, and then where they're currently at. Again, I'll caution everyone, right? Like self-service, you get a drop in coverage or whatever, right? The nice thing is it will record that and then put that in when you come back to coverage. So if you're not seeing them move, it's been a minute or two. The Billy Goat Trail is a perfect example of this. You might lose, you might lose their tracks and then pick them up. You can see Master Fire Wilkes. The other really cool thing about this is he just took a picture of a fire truck right on his travels, and then you can see, so you can load stuff in like this. So if you're doing, for example, there's a discussion right now with Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, and some other partners about doing search for like damage assessment, damage structures, right? This might be an option. SARCOP would be the other from the FEMA world, but that's an easy way to kind of catalog damage of, like, say a tornado came through Rockville again or
The
whatever.
good old windshield assessments. Remember,
Yeah,
the
right.
piece of paper, they hand you a dozen pieces of paper to go out riding around looking at addresses. Now we can actually, you could start a map, or whoever, is going to start a map for the event or incident. And, hey, engine, 7-Eleven is going to go out and do neighborhood windshield assessments. And they can literally, each address that is affected, take a picture, and then right in the comments of that marker, tree through the house, 3 occupants, nobody staying there, and unoccupied, no Red Cross needed, things like that. So even for the windshield assessment sort of side of things, the normal day-to-day things that we used to do with pen and paper, this is going to give us an electronic copy of things, and again, that record keeping goes elsewhere, and eventually it leads to the finance world, which, we all want cool toys, and we got to do the cool stuff for them to help them help us.
Yeah, and I mean, we just did this Western Maryland. There were 6 of us that went out for the flooding at the schools, right, all the way at the end of Maryland, and I mean, right, so people have nothing. Their stuff was completely flooded. A lot of we ended up doing basically a windshield neighborhood survey of about 50 houses on a street that was completely cut off, and we got really good information and data from that. And that, like Mike said, that matters, right? They have the record of that. They can get that through. We were working with MSP on that deployment, and they can go through that. They can submit for federal reimbursement.
All right, so you can see this is the quick look we did after that map. That large line in the middle was the Montgomery County guys with the CalTopo. All those circles are all essentially windshield assessments of them walking down the street, taking pictures. In those comments of those markers is going to tell you information about that, and they can all pull that up. The guys from Frederick, they were working off a free account. So again, capturing good data using the FEMA markings. Still doing a lot of good stuff, but sometimes that picture says 1,000 words. So they did a lot of good work over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful for an AAR, right? A post-incident report, like whatever we're doing. Even if it's nice for the accountability piece for the incident commanders in the moment, but something like a search pattern where you get a lake, right? Black Hills Lake, something like that, where we may not have a patient location, like, hey, patient was reported, last seen on the ice and the water, whatever. We can kind of see exactly where we covered, like search pattern wise and stuff like that. So for a manager, for an incident commander, whoever, can see exactly where we've covered and areas we still need to search and things like that. So.
That's one right there on well, they can't see it on their screen, but this is the one from Gaithersburg that we ran last year.
Yeah, they're putting it up now.
Yep. Again, that was a search of a lake, and you can see what's cool about that is it's instantaneous. We can see where we missed, make sure we covered everything, and try for successful outcome.
So here, Mike, you want to tell them to stop their tracks so that people can see when it ends,
Yep.
and then we'll do probably the SMS locator
Sure.
next.
Yeah, you guys can switch back to the iPad.
And they just, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Because they must be listening, obviously.
Possible. They're pretty.
So they labeled it right, and then they marked it right. Victim, mannequin, in a car somewhere, right over in the rubble pile there. But that's just a good example of that. And they're still going, right? So Mike's going to ask them to stop their tracks so everyone can see kind of when that stops, how that shows up. And while we're doing that, right, I can scroll over on the left here. So you also can select, right? So they're labeled. You can click on them, see where they started, see what time. It shows like some distance stuff, but that's another thing. That's kind of how this left side of the screen is set up. You've got your markers that we've put in, like the initial stuff. Whoops. And then as people add things, you can come down here and also see that.
Yep.
Let's see. It looks like
So they turned them off.
Yeah, so you can kind of see. I think this was Wilkes here, right? He kind of just stopped, right? So that's another clue, right? And we will let's do the SMS locator.
Yep.
So if you go over to here, sorry, let me back up here. If you go to add, right, that's another option on the screen. I know it's necessarily isn't a training thing, but it gives you a whole bunch of different options. One of the things with the full account, and this is similar to what ECC folks do with Rapid SOS, you can click on locator here, SMS locator. So I always put in here, once again, sorry, I'm in the wrong box. Say we're using it to find a patient or whatever, right? Something along those lines.
You need a phone number here?
Yeah.
Here. Instead of reading it out over the world.
So basically, what this is doing while he's typing this in is this allows somebody with a full license. So sometimes it's the Swiftwater boat officer, right? The whoever's going to be in charge of the incident, the Swiftwater call. We can actually send a link to the calling party, right? The patient, and they can hit this and basically drop their pin right on the map for us without having to do all that
Right. It's going to
interface.
share the location. And the cool thing is it's going to track them as long as they keep that link open for us. So if they're
They
trying to
start
walk
moving.
to safety, right? Or we can tell them once we see them and they're mobile or able to be mobile, hey, start walking south.
So now this basically links their phone right into the map that
Yep.
we're using.
So now they're going to pop up once he accepts it. And it usually takes a few minutes.
As you can see, as I scroll down, right, it comes up basically under the SMS locators down under another tab here. You can see that it was delivered. You view the phone number.
And then I was accepted. You can see it popped up on at least on my screen. On the full version that the battalion chiefs would see, you get a window that pops up. This is SMS locator, possible patient location has started tracking. So it kind of prompts you that, okay, cool, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And if you zoom back in there, you can probably see it come up there.
Yeah, you can see him start to move, right?
There he is, yeah.
When you see that long straight line like that, I think the service might have lagged there for a second.
He probably has an Apple.
The key with this is when you're talking to the patient, right, to tell them it opens up in the browser. I think Mike said, ask them to leave that open in the browser. You'll get an initial hit, right, if they just open it real quick and accept it and then close it. But if they can leave it open, if they move as things happen, right, as Mass Fireworks is moving right now, you get constant updates, and that's very similar to Mike, to Rapid SOS, right? Like I've watched it up there, sitting up there with the supervisors, and I mean, you could see someone if they're calling on a cell phone in a house. You can see them walk around the house and go. So it's.
But that's great for us, though, and ECC can see them on the Rapid SOS, and then they need to tell us or translate to us in some form or fashion if we're out in the field, whether it's hiking up a trail or UTV or a boat. This has been an absolute game changer for us.
Yeah, and
it's cut down our searches. It's without a doubt, positively rescuing people, saving their lives.
you want to pull up?
Yeah.
And I'll go through my spiel because it's
so it kind of rolls into that. Talking about a call we ran in was it A shift? Was that B shift?
It was A shift. I think Chad was working overtime.
Yeah, imagine that. Oops, I just added up already. I was already ahead of myself.
So Master Firefighter Goyette was working one night, right? They had two people, I think a man and a woman. Their boat washed away. They're up basically, if anyone knows this area, it's right at Seneca and 31's area, right at the what we call the breaks, where there's a bunch of rocks in the water, and the river goes from being wide and it starts to narrow, and the flow gets more rapid. So a couple of things with this call, right? He was able to call the calling party, right? The two people out in the river. On the way there, they were actually clinging to a tree in the middle of the water, right? And she was able to open. He sent the link, said, "Hey, I'm going to hang up with you. I'm sending you this link. Please accept it. Keep it open." Right? She was able to do that. The big thing with that was, if people are familiar, I'll try to explain this as best I can. So you come out of Seneca. There's an aqueduct. You launch the boat. The initial location of this was reported to be, and Mike, can you go down on the map?
Yep.
Basically on the Virginia side. All the way over near the GW Canal. So before having this, right, Chad would have gone straight across, right, to Virginia and then started his search. Instead, he knew to basically come out of Seneca and make a hard left, if you will, and go south on the river because they were actually much closer to the Maryland side. Got right to them, right, and like I said, they're clinging to a tree at this point in the middle of the water, grabs them. And then the other, this is another antidote to this, Battalion Chief Schaffner is watching from home, right, on his account. And if you can see kind of in the middle there, that the blue, the circle of those tracks. You see the green kind of come up and then kind of go towards Virginia and come across. So he's watching. He sees the boats, right? I think it was the green one. They're making forward progress, and he knows he knows the background of that area, right? It's a hard area for us to get through, depending on river level and flow and everything else. He sees that the boat that was green, basically, I think it was 730 Bravo, kind of stop making forward progress or upriver progress, and then make a hard left towards Virginia. And he knew right away before. And look, there's 2 of us in the boat usually, right? Maybe 3 if we're having an issue, right? We don't really have time to get on the radio sometimes. So he knew right away, hey, they're having a motor problem probably, right? There's a reason they're not just going upstream all of a sudden anymore. A minute later, they come over there and say, hey, we're having motor problems. We're coming over. We're going to Virginia to try to figure this out. So that gives the battalion chiefs, I know, and I get it, right? You're sitting in that car. I don't want to say frustration, right? But they're sitting there waiting for us to come back,
Trepidation, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't, when you can't see, you don't
Right,
know.
right. And you think about a box alarm, right? That pace of the call is a lot different than a lot of these calls, right? So you're sitting there, you're watching the incident timer, you're like, man, are they all right? Like, right? Like I haven't heard them. And so this just another thing for the chiefs sitting in the cars, right? Situational awareness and knowing like kind of what's going on and where you're at. So
Cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to pull up, like case-wise, while we're here, so you can kind of see like end results? We just did 2, but just in case you had anything else with the files, we got like 15 minutes left or so.
Yeah, so the first one, because Blockhouse Point was the first time we tried this. And I had just shown, I'd had my account for a little while. I'd just shown the folks on C shift at 10 and 30 during one of our training days. We played with it. So a few of the guys downloaded it on their personal phones. And I was able to, this is kind of more advanced stuff, but I was able to create a map, share it with the guys that day. And later that evening after dinner, 30 and 31 were dispatched for a lost hiker at Blockhouse Point. So I'm sitting at the watch desk and kind of, like we just did here, pulled up the CAD information. I called ECC, asked them, I said, are you guys still on the phone with her? They said, yes. I said, well, I'm going to send her a text. Can you just let her know that it's not spam? This is legit. It'll help us share her location. So by the time all that's progressing, you can see Dan Carpenter's phone. It was in UTV 731 with Captain Ballantyne, and he says, "Hey Cap, this is where we need to go. I've got a location. This is what This is what we need to do." So as soon as you can see them progress into the woods, that's a huge trail system at Blockhouse Point, horse trails, hiking trails, and they made the left turn. And Captain Ballantyne's the whole time like, "How do you know where we're going? How do you have this information?" And he's like, "Oh, Captain Stream sent it to me. We're good." And after that incident, they went right to her, picked her up, brought her out of the woods, and Captain Ballantyne called me. He's like, "What was that wizardry? Like, where did you come up with this? How did this happen? You turned what could have been 3 or 4 hour search into 10 minutes in the woods." So that was kind of a big selling point for us. It was the first time we'd used the SMS text messaging successfully on a call. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think right now, do you want to go back and just reiterate to everyone like what the expectation is, right? If they're on that, you like just talk again about mostly like let's say the patient's already marked or whatever, what they need to do as far as turning tracks on, and then how they can use that app to help direct them to that patient, whether it's just hey, go the best I can toward this dot, but I'm in thick woods. Like how if I can see the trail networks, just talk about those overlays and stuff again one more time.
yeah, I'll just I'll reiterate, right? Going back to you guys want to pull up the iPad view again. So step 1, right? Go to the MCFR SAR data, and like I said, when you start to play with this program, it become more intuitive. But the right map, right? Once again, ask the question. If you're not sure, you missed it, right? Because a lot of times UTVs they get added 10, 20, 30 minutes into the call, right? So just come on the radio and ask, get on the MDC and look at
Which
comments,
map are
right?
we
Yeah. I'm going to go to the training map again, right? And then C-shift training map.
So that's a good ECC note too. Is that something that you guys would do? Like if you picked up on that, like somebody saying we're going to use XYZ CalTopo map, is that something you note right now or no?
Not to this point yet, no.
Might not hurt though to be a
Yeah.
thing, right? If as you guys up there, if you hear Captain Stream or Michael or somebody say, hey, we're going to be using the Battalion 1 CalTopo map for this,
And
just
And talking to Chief Schaffner, we're still in the trial.
Yeah, none of this
right?
is
So
policy, right?
eventually,
We're just conversation.
so
piece.
we've talked to some of the folks at ECC, and they're like they're obviously on board. Anything to help us, help them, help us is gonna be great. So that's, I think, moving forward, you'll see them eventually doing that. Currently, we're just not there yet.
Okay. Yep, just talking. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go down to the 4 dots, right? And basically, 2 things you need to do is share location, right? And then,
Just the tracks, not the location.
oh, I always do both.
You don't need to do both.
Well, share it. Why not?
Why not?
And then hit record tracks. You can change the color, change the name, right? I'm logged in under like my county account, right? The UTVs, the boats, all the stuff that has an account, Mike, they should all have a name, right? That's associated with it. So that should all be on.
So when you're on this UTV, as you're leaving the station and you're opening the
Yes.
CalTopo map, you open the correct map. You can just do this, right?
Yep.
Record
start.
tracks right then. And I've seen Andy
Yep.
when I run these river calls. I was like, hey, I knew you were almost here. And you see him coming down Falls Road or
And
whatever.
I'm glad you bring that up, Matt, because I would suggest that because, like, once again, the area we deal with at Anglers, right? It is you lose cell service, it lags. Like, I just do it when you leave the firehouse, right? We can either delete that section of the track later. It's really not going to harm anything, but it's better. What we've had happen, I know I have, like on the towpath, I've tried to start because I forgot, and it doesn't. You usually have to refresh the app or whatever, right? So yeah, definitely start when you have good cell service when you leave the firehouse.
And that's the other thing too. Is if you get busy, right, you forget because you've got 100 things going on.
Right.
Just turn them on when you leave the firehouse. Once you give your your driver the bearings or what have you, directions, just turn it on, stick it in your pocket, and then just move on from there. We can edit the other stuff out later. I would rather have them on than not.
You go back to the iPad view real quick. So I'll just reiterate once again, right? The stuff that's marked in, and then you're starting to see as we're doing this, right? We've gone through this. You've got photos, you've got victim location, right? I'm now on there, the SMS locator. So that's all things you can click, and it'll bring you to that point if you're thinking. That's one way to navigate us. I think, Matt, you were asking about that. And then the other thing is, like, on the app itself, right? If you come over to the right side of the screen, that little arrow right there, and that's when you can start going to different views, whether satellite you want. I like this one, and I like the global imagery, but there's a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, what's cool about the navigation? What 3 words has the same feature, right? So if you put the what 3 words in, hit navigate, it's going to give you the arrow and bearing. If he picks a marker, one of the markers on there on the left-hand side, if you pick a random marker, what's on there? Scroll up a little bit. Oh, no, the other side, left side. Scroll, find me a marker, just click on it. So it says navigate to in the box, right? Now, if you click that little box with the arrow at the bottom, that one, yep. And hit that one more time. There you go. So for
Tells you exactly
us
how
older
far you
folks
are.
with the old eyes, right, or no glasses, or you're trying to run through the woods at night, now it's going to give you a bearing and a distance directly to that wherever we're going. So
And
if
again-
you pull that possible patient location up, you can navigate to that directly. So if you get to the ball field, and or a ball field complex, they tell you they're on field 10. Well, I don't know where field 10 is. I'm going to get out of my ambulance. Somebody already loaded the patient marker in there because we use the GPS location off the CAD, or we converted the what 3 words. So I now have the marker on the CalTopo, but how do I get there? So I can at least have a line of sight bearing to get to that location.
Yeah, and I've used it just for situational awareness, right? You go to an address for somebody to fill up a horse right in a field, and they're like, they're like a mile in the woods or whatever. Well, I have the GPS app up, and it's showing straight line location 700 feet. I'm like, okay, well, they're not really that far away. We might have to wind a little bit, but physically, we're not that far away from where they are now, and you know that right away. Yeah, awesome. All right, so as far as again the end user, I think people just have to play with it. Just understanding the basic features, right? Know that as Captain Mecklin here is on the iPad, right? Knowing those 2 windows on each side, like while there's a lot of options to select for map overlays and things like that, you can collapse both of them, like he's kind of shown you a couple times. Those arrows, so you can get the full screen map. Obviously, on your cell phones to be a little bit smaller. And I think those are pretty much the basics. Any other like tips for people going out to use it the first time or anything?
No, that's the big thing is if you have questions or you want to set up a drill for your station, I've had other folks contact me. Myself, Captain Mecklin are huge resources. We can help you out. You set the drill up. do some pre-planned stuff. I know the guys at 31 are trying to do some of that right now. We can walk you through it on the phone. We have people on each shift that are comfortable enough that if I need to send a piece of apparatus to your firehouse for the morning, we can make that happen as a station drill, battalion drill, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So
And even on a station level, right? So just how to practice, getting people comfortable with what three words I think is big, right? So again, like you guys said, you can just open up the map, right? You can click anywhere on the map; it'll give you what three words. So for a lineup drill in the morning, I've done that before. Where I printed something, given a fictitious scenario, right? You're dispatched to this address. ECC comes back. Here's the what three words, and ask people, okay, what is use this what three words basically, and tell me what the closest landmark is. Just different things like that to get people used to using the different apps, and you can now interface that in with CalTopo, right? You want to speak to the training maps real quick, and if can people use those? Can we
those training maps are for everybody. That they're wide open. The cool thing with this, the way the settings are set up right now, we have it set up where you can add things. You can delete what you added in there, but you can't delete somebody else's information. So you're not going to delete the map. You're not going to delete something that is important to somebody else that they may be using. So any of those maps should be pretty much locked out except for what you put in there. So as far as the end, they show my computer screen real quick. The big thing, I tell them the big three takeaways that Mark was talking about. The top left up here, make sure you're on the right map, and that box right there is going to tell you what map you're on. If they haven't told you what map to be on, ask them or decide for yourself. Maybe it's a point where the UTV was dispatched out of the box with the 711 and Truck 6 and engine 706 for the Capitol Crescent Trail. The UTV is just going to say command or Montgomery, just so other crews are aware we're using the Battalion 2 map. Right, then puts everybody on the same page. They can put it in the CAD comments, so any additional units that get added later on that may have CalTopo can get on the same page pretty quickly. The other two things, again, that 4 dots down at the bottom is going to be your menu that you're going to want to be familiar with, and that's going to allow you to add the markers of where you're at. So if you get to that patient and you find them, you can drop a marker there so that other crews can come help you, unless you want to carry that patient 2 miles through the woods by yourself. If you want somebody to help you, drop a location, and then record your track just so we know where you're at. It's going to help us as far as situational awareness and allow the battalion chief to see where you are, where you're going, and plan resources accordingly. So those three things, and then the layers you can play with later on, but those are the big three. Once you get those three things down, everything else is a bonus.
And you can download, like we talked about, you can download this on your personal phone, right? You can get the CalTopo. You will have to create a free account. There is a way to get on the maps, and I don't want to open Pandora's box for you if that's open to everybody or not. I know, like, obviously it's a work tablet, but like in the safety car, we have one. We don't have an account. We're not on the team account,
Right.
but I was able to load the county maps on there so I can still see the tracks and all that kind of stuff. So that is available. Again, I don't know if that's.
Yeah, if that's something that somebody's interested in, they can contact one of us, and we can get them set up.
Yeah, but at least,
It's kind of a little bit of a process.
yeah, but at least you can become comfortable with the program itself.
sure.
If you're not, if you're detailed out today or whatever, but you're normally at 14 and you want to get more comfortable with just the CalTopo app, you can download that on your device.
For sure.
And that's hitting that right with the Western Maryland deployment, right? Like we were going up I was with Chief Shafter going up the road, and I was able to see Howard County and Frederick live, right? So that's one of these big events, right? Like the Tornado through Rockville, and we get mutual aid. Mike's created QR codes for each one of these maps, and that's something we can go, when we get to that point, right? If we have this big event, we've got mutual aid companies coming in, or we need to add a bunch of users to do those windshield surveys or a big search or whatever. It's as simple as them scanning the QR code of the map, setting up an account, and then we go from there.
Yeah, we've done the same thing. If we've gone somewhere, again, Western Maryland, we've working with the state police for a search out of Brunswick last year. The state police and Frederick County units were already on the search. I was able to call the state police that were in charge and said, hey, can you share me that QR code so the Montgomery County units can get on? And now you can see where we're searching downriver, as well as I can see the Frederick County units searching above us. So it gives us everybody a little bit of situational awareness.
Yeah, a little more interoperability.
Yep.
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
So it's able to cross the borders there, right? We can other agencies, and it's worked out well so far.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't have any questions come in, and we're about at the hour mark already. So I guess we'll go around real quick. And Captain McDonald, do you have anything else from an ECC perspective as far as things that you've seen on your end? Or I mean, again, I mostly just wanted your input for kind of how we know where people are and things like that. But anything else that you've seen?
No, like I said, the biggest thing is, we need to have just those phase 2 cell phones to be able to get to that rapid SOS. If it's a landline, obviously it's stuck in that building or stuff. And if it's those 911 only phones, we can't get their information. So the cell phones, our normal cell phones with a phase 2 hit is usually the easiest way, because then we can get the phone number to go to the rapid SOS to then be able to start seeing those breadcrumbs to share to you all.
And as of right now, while we have, our uniform people at ECC, we have we use you guys as a resource, right? If people get there and it's something that unexpected, right, that we didn't, we thought it was gonna be straightforward and it's not, obviously ask you guys. You can easily get us more information. Some cases it's easier than others, but use you as a resource, I think, is the biggest.
If it's busy, Mike, do you get, I mean, when you're running, one of these calls comes out and it's 3 in the afternoon and you got 15, 20 calls pending, like how, I mean, I know you don't have unlimited staff up there, right? Does it become harder, or are you able to manage that, or?
Well, that's all kind of separated. The call takers are all civilianized now.
Yeah.
And like right now we're at the alternate center, so they're actually up on the 3rd floor. Makes it a little difficult, like when you all say, hey, are they still on the phone? We have to send a message to the 3rd floor, but everything can adapt and overcome. There's always 8 of us on shift, 24 hours. If it gets really busy, obviously, during sleep periods, we can recall right away and get the staffing fully functioning. There's 9 CADs right now currently functioning and operating that are available for use just right off the get. So if it gets busy, yes, it's stressful for a little bit, but then once everything gets going, we can really start delegating, get into the weeds, start really helping y'all.
I got a quick question along those lines I just thought of, right? So if we have some kind of incident, like say the tornado comes through Rockville again, right? We have some incident where we have 4 callers now that are in some relatively close geographic area, but they don't really know where they are, or, maybe a boat flipped over and people got separated. Whatever the scenario is it relatively easy to track multiple patients on the same, like, how would that work? Like, can we, I guess they would just be sent a separate SMS.
You can do
Yeah,
multiples.
and I would, something as simple as patient 1, 2, 3, 4, or patient in the red house, patient, right? You could do the separate markers on the map, right?
I was thinking more like abstract things that we might,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, right, like a separate thing to kind of manage that, right, would work. I mean, I don't want to say we deal in absolutes a lot, but right, we deal with a lot of unknowns, right? And when like with Mike, right, like Rapid SOS is probably the better thing than CalTopo, right, for this like SMS live person. It's more automatic, it works, but they have that up there. Say they get busy, right? Now we've, hey, just give me an operating channel. Like, I'm going to manage it from the firehouse while Mike's going out and doing a search or whatever, right? Just gives us another option, right? If the system gets that stressed and that busy, we've got that ability to kind of.
Or if there's an incident like that, there's multiple CCOs at the command post who are familiar with this, can kind of help manage that into the process. Yeah. Cool. Mark, do you have anything else you want to add here as we wrap up?
No, if Chief Light's watching, can he put me and Maddie in for an hour of COPDI? That'd be great. So I don't have to do the shot for him.
Mike,
No, just nothing. As far as the teaching stuff, the end user sort of stuff, if you have questions, still working on it, been bogged down with a lot of other stuff, but Google Drive, folder I'm working on, tons of information going to be in there, and eventually for those units that have the Sonom phones, that have CalTopo, they'll be getting a binder eventually. I told those guys that 9 months ago. But they'll be getting a binder with, I basically made one-pagers for, how to do the SMS text, how to add the helicopter overlay, how to do basically CalTopo Beginner 101. Just so if you have a new person on your shift and you're trying to teach them how to use it, there'll be resources coming to you sooner than later, hopefully, that'll help you. And if that doesn't, if you need them before then, contact me. But if you need help with something specific, ask. I'm always welcome. I've really kind of bought into this, and I enjoy talking about it, obviously. So
awesome.
Just hit me up.
Cool. Thank you. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I think it was definitely a valuable conversation. Hopefully, if nothing else, people just take away getting their hands on it, practicing with it, and seeing it. It truly is a valuable
it's pretty neat
tool in our toolbox. So that's about all we have for today. Again, for wrap-up wise, just make sure you sign up for the blood drive if you haven't done so already, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.